Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Dropping Dimes. It's your girl, Michelle Ambrose, coming straight from the T Dot with another episode. Thanks again for joining. So let's get into it.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
You are now in the game with Dropping Dimes, Basketball Diaries with Michelle Ambrose, giving you the good, the bad, and the full court press. A mother's love of the game while navigating her son through high school basketball, prep school, university, and beyond. Get ready. Game clock set. We about to tip off.
Let's talk about Keon Jeremiah Ambrose-Hylton. For those of you who don't know, that's my son. He is 23 and he is a senior at SMU, which is Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. So a little bit about him. He played 2 years at the University of Alabama and went into the transfer portal and landed at SMU and has been there since. So this is his final year. He graduated recently with a bachelor's and he's pursuing his master's now, but it's his final year of playing. Because of COVID, he had an additional year for eligibility and he's gonna kill it this year. So if you haven't already, please check him out. Here's a picture. I'm hoping that I can post the picture of him. Actually, I'll probably be over here of him. Check him out. He's going to cause ruckus this season in the ACC conference. So let me tell you a bit about who Keon Jeremiah Ambrose-Hylton is. Keon was born September 21st, 2001, Scarborough Grace Hospital. He was 8 pounds, 11 ounces, big baby, but a very cool baby, you know. And I know as parents, we always daunt about our kids, but he was a really cool baby. He was down for whatever. It's like, hey, Keon, I'm heading here. You want to come? Yeah, mom. There we go. So good guy. Good guy, definitely. What I will say is when he got introduced to sports, he started off playing soccer. When he played soccer, I was the soccer coach. So I tried to navigate and help the little kids, give them a little of the fundamentals of kicking and like don't use your hands were the two basic things not to do. And with that, you could see, you know, he grew up and that because that's the first sport he grew up playing and enjoyed it. And then it came to a point where he was interested in something more. So he played house league with the Ajax Pickering Dolphins. And they were located out of like the borderline of Pickering and Ajax. And he did house league for a whole season, and I thought he was doing quite well. So while he played house league, I sat on the board for the Ajax Pickering Dolphins, where I wanted to make sure that everything that the older kids got, it went and trickled down to the younger kids. Great organization for football. And then after house league, he decided to play rep. So when he decided to play rep, it was more so that when everything was going on the left side, he was at the far right. So I knew at that point in time, football was not for him. So one day he came home and he asked me, he basically told me, Mom, I got cut from the team. I go, well, what team did you get cut from? Now, keep in mind, don't bring this up with Keon. He will deny that I've even had this conversation with you. He will deny it. He swears like this never happened. But let me progress. So he came home and he just said casually, like, I got cut. And I was like, oh, you got cut from, he's like, the basketball team. And I'm like, oh, I go, I didn't even know you were going out for the team. Like, I don't even know what skills you actually have in order to play that sport. So with that, I started to look to see what options. So here's a dime for you. The organization that we approached was the Durham City Bulldogs. They're out of Durham. Great organization. The owner and one of the coaches is Nkosi Adams, and phenomenal organization. I definitely recommend if you have little kids in the Durham area who are wanting to know the fundamentals of basketball and to be able to be in a competitive arena, whether it be house league or rep, you probably want to check there at dime that I'm dropping for you. So let's progress through. Called Durham City, called and spoke to Nkosi. Nkosi said, you know what? And it was pretty late when I did call him, I will admit. He still said, come in on Saturday, bring Keon, let me take an eye at him and we'll see what we can do. Brought him out on the Saturday. Nkosi took one look at him and was like, I have a place for him. And I totally get it. You know, Keon was like huge at that point. He was taller than a lot of the kids that he had on his regular rep team. So it was going to be an asset, right? It was going to be an asset to the team to have someone who could defend. He might not have been able to shoot, but he could definitely defend, right? And so he did. He played 1.5 years, I believe, with Durham City. And like I said, great experience. I definitely employ you to look out for them if you have young ones who really want to play not just the rep side, but also like a house league side. So another group that I will definitely bring up is Advantage Titans. This is another dime that I'm dropping in this episode. So can you imagine? I just dropped 2 dimes for you in one episode. But I will go in to say Advantage Titans, elite organization. Hi, Chris. Because I know you're going to be watching this. But what I will say is Chris Smallings is the president and founder of Advantage Titans. Wonderful man, a man of God, a man who I trusted with my son and no regrets whatsoever. I feel like Keon got his foundation and really more understanding of basketball at Advantage Titans and began to start to blossom. He was still rough. He was at an awkward stage where he was trying to get familiar with his own body, very lanky, uncoordinated, but very true to the game, very much involved to want to improve. And I think the biggest thing sometimes with kids is that they want results, but sometimes they don't want to put in that work. One thing I will definitely say for Keon at any age, at any stage, this is one young man I will always, from what I can even, has always been able to match that. Like he's always works hard. He gets up early. He's chasing me to drop him off at games and tournaments. So he was always dedicated to the sports. And Keon wanted to always improve. So alongside with any of the basketball was always me having him in training. And big up to Galaxy Training. If you don't know, look them up. If you do know, again, Cedric Carter is the founder and owner of Galaxy Training. Phenomenal guy. It's been years. I have clips of Keon not even being able to shoot. And that man had worked with Keon for many hours, for many years. And definitely happy with the different individuals that have come into this young man's life. So with that, Keon started to embrace basketball more, and he really put forth effort in developing his skill set of the game, and he wanted to do more. He wanted to be more of a contributor. So there were certain times Advantage Titans made it to the finals, and I felt like Keon might not have been able to play as much in that final game because his game wasn't really developed back then. And I think after the team had won, he was a little sulky. And I kind of was like, hey, what's going on, buddy? You guys just won. Like, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, but I didn't feel I contributed to that win. So I was like, he finally gets it. So for those of you who know my kid, he used to always be like smiling, happy. He would just be happy to have touched the court and come off and be able to be a part of the excitement. And I think that day he really started to understand, like, I want to feel like I've contributed to that win by being more on the court or accomplishing. And I think that was kind of the pivot point for him. I think after that, he really wanted to continue to develop himself and to get better at being on the court. And he really upped his training. He upped his workouts. He really became more focused on being a better version of himself. So to see him now, a lot of people are like, oh, good job, Mish. Like, you really raised a young man who's acceptable, he's polished, he's this, and that. And I still look at this guy and I'm like, oh, this guy being my son, but I look at him and I'm just proud that you had the ability to really see what you needed to do in order to work it out with yourself to get to a better or a higher platform. And I never had to push Keon. I was never that parent to be like, come on, let's do that. No, what I did as a parent is I supported. Sometimes maybe I supported too much, but I supported. And when I say that, I am that parent who would go to every game and be like, hey, after the game, like, win or lose, what do you think you did wrong, right? What do you think you could have done next time in that situation? And to hear like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old tell you, hey, I could have done blah, 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 blah. That's how our conversations always are. When Keon has a game, even now, I might not be at the game. It's on TV. I probably watched it. I usually give him like a half an hour for him to change and do what he needs to do. And then, hey, buddy, how are you? I'm calling him and we're going to discuss the game. And I think that's what I've always tried to do with him because I want to know his perspective on what he feels like he could have improved on in the game, right? I am probably one of the hardest person that rides my son sometimes. I'm guilty. Right? However, I feel like he's been successful at being able to understand some of the criticisms and be able to move past it, be able to work on what he needed to work on and move past, right? So I'm going to say it works, but it doesn't work for everyone, right? So what I will say, again, in tying up maybe this episode, is that as parents, you're just that. You are a parent. You want the best for your kids, and I'm 100% behind you in regards to that. What I will say is I've seen parents be so involved that their kids no longer enjoy the game. And I feel like it comes a point in time, and I don't want to call out the men, but I'm going to call out the men a little, and I might get some backlash. But I feel like the men sometimes didn't get so far in their career or in their basketball career or football or whatever the sport is. And they're trying to nurture and pivot their son to be kind of the better version of them. And what I will always say is let them figure it out. I go, absolutely guide them. I'm not saying like total 100 hands off and they're doing their own thing, but let them figure it out. I go, if you listen to episode 1, I played every sport. I was more probably athletic than Keon. Keon grew up and he was growing so quick that he wasn't able to control his limbs, right? He started to grow real quick. And obviously it's hard to be able to dribble and do certain things when you're 6'9", right? Or you're growing and like you're 6'3" at the age of 10, right? So there is progressions where he had to figure out what worked for him, right? And he hasn't totally figured it out all perfectly, but it's coming. Again, going back to that point of nurturing then pushing is the fact that there's a lot of boys who playing with Keon, like the parents would just be like, you would see it. Like you could see the look on the face of the boy. He missed the jump shot or something happened. He comes off the court and you could see the dad is ripping into him and you could just see the face of the defeat from the child. And I often look back at, did I ever do that? And I'm going to probably say there'd be very few times I think I ever really used to yell at Keon about stuff like that. I think for me, it was always a learning opportunity to say, hey, you were open and this happened, or you were guarding this individual and you let him shoot over you. Like, what was your thinking behind that? And I wait for him to answer because I think sometimes when you're viewing, you're not necessarily going through those motions on the court. And when you play basketball, it's a quick paced game. It's not something where it's slow and you're waiting for motions and movements. Everything is happening parallel. So all I can say, parents, fathers, support. You guys do a great job. Women, you do awesome jobs as well in this field. I just feel like at times, sometimes there's just too much of that, maybe overcrowding, making sure that your child goes down this certain path. He has to do this. He has to do 1,000 shots. He has to, absolutely. I definitely will support training and I will support the endeavor of practicing and making sure you get your shots in. But let them lead. You guys played basketball or any sport at one point in time. Let them lead and provide them with that guidance, right? So that's what I will say in regards to this episode. I talked a lot. I know I dropped 2 dimes in the same episode. So yes, you're welcome. But if you haven't already, click subscribe. Make sure you hit the like and follow me into episode 3, where I'll dive into high school basketball. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Droppin' Dimes Basketball Diaries. The good, the bad, and the full court press. Make sure you like and share, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode.